tight races in an otherwise sleepy box office weekend, official Oscar nominations, and Dave Franco gets calls about portraying who? All this and so much more on this episode of Beyond the Screen. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is Beyond the Screen, and we are your hosts. My name is Ryan Gum, and that's Jake Holtzclaw. Jake, what's up?
What's up? We are in the same room once again.
Man, 4 times now? 3?
Oh, dude, I haven't been keeping count.
Look at us. We're making it happen.
Oh, yeah. So whenever I travel home and then I have to go back, I stop in Lexington and bother Ryan. I just come in, hey, man, you want to record something?
Again, it's only for convenience.
Yeah, it's just convenience. I don't really like this guy.
Yeah, and the feeling's mutual. No, I'm just kidding.
He just has to open the door.
Yeah, he has a key. I can't stop him.
I come through the window sometimes.
Oh, yeah, that was a crazy event. But in all seriousness, it is nice to look up and to see your wonderful face.
Appreciate
and especially with your opinions. I love not having a delay. There were multiple times in the episodes that we've recorded. So when we do it over our Discord call, there's like a slight delay. So there are times, and I'm sure you guys know about it at home, where there's just this sudden and then one of us goes. So the first time we did this, I asked a question and I looked up and I was so used to the timing being like a second or more of wait that when he instantly responded, it was like a jump scare. I physically jolted in my seat. I was like, whoa.
Surprising.
He answered me so fast.
This guy is actually pretty quick when he answers.
Yeah, it's not him just taking a second to buffer. He's actually thinking on the spot. So
yeah, instead of me actually thinking about what I'm going to say, in reality, I just say whatever the first thing comes to mind.
I mean, that's how else are you going to do it?
Sometimes it bites me.
Yeah.
So, all right, what's the first thing on the docket?
As always, we're going to jump into some box office numbers. We got some big winners, and otherwise, again, this was a really kind of a light weekend. Not a lot of people were getting out. It's been tough with the wildfires and all that stuff, and really every other natural weather-related disaster that's been happening the last few weeks. People aren't really going out as much. It's warmer now, but there's still some problems and still some issues some people are facing. So box office numbers have been a little bit lower. However, in his first film since Hacksaw Ridge in 2016, director Mel Gibson returns to our screens with his newest film, Flight Risk, starring Michelle Dockery, Topher Grace, and Mark Wahlberg in a sky-high thriller. Also, Mark Wahlberg is bald and has a strange accent for the first, I don't know however long in the film, till he doesn't, in which case he still looks and sounds weird. The film, which was distributed by Lionsgate, won the weekend, earning an estimated 11 to 12 million on the box office. Again, if you guys who are listening, you probably realize this episode was released a lot earlier, and we are recording mid-Sunday when we're both available, so we don't have precise numbers like we usually do. So anyway, back to the film. Jake, we witnessed the trailer for Flight Risk in theaters together while we were watching our Nosferatu screening. What were your takeaways originally from the initial trailer?
I mean, it looks, I don't know, it's just an action thriller, and it's always fun to see Mark Wahlberg try to hide his accent because isn't he from Boston?
Yeah.
So it's
chronically
Bostonian.
Yeah.
So do you remember what the accent was?
I thought he was trying to put on some sort of country accent. Like it just, it was bad. Yeah.
Like a super bad Texas level pilot accent.
Like, I think, I'm pretty sure that you leaned over and was like, wait, is he a bad guy? Because I was like, I don't know. And then immediately he drops the accent. His hat gets knocked off. He's bald.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess he is the bad guy.
Yeah.
It looked weird. It just didn't fit.
So it's in a single prop airplane. And I think the synopsis is that he is a hitman of sorts. And it's a police officer, some kind of government agent transporting a prisoner.
Yes, and Topher Grace is the prisoner, and Michelle Dockery is the government agent.
Yes, and of course, in a single prop airplane, and it seems like they're over the mountains as well.
Somewhere, yeah.
There's gonna be a time where the plane goes into a free dive. Obviously, everything's gonna go zero gravity, and somebody's
now they're on the ceiling. Whoa!
Somebody's gonna get the gun. Is all I'm saying, and that's about it. You have to watch to learn more, but that's generally what I got. I assume it's all gonna end happily ever after, as all action thrillers do.
Right. And I don't know if it was because it's Mark Wahlberg, and I don't remember a time where Mark Wahlberg played a villain, and he probably has. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. He's recently done a lot of like family comedy type movies, and I think he did a series on Apple TV where he's like a family man who was like a CIA agent before or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's Mark Wahlberg. So this was pretty out of left field for me. And I thought that like in the trailer, there was a twist of like Topher Grace was like, why does he have blood? Why does the pilot have blood on his shirt? And that's like part of like the realization that he was like not there for their needs. But the big thriller, because you're like, okay, yeah, they're in a plane. Why is this a thriller? Like, why whatever? There's no pilot. So once this dude is like captured, so essentially Mark Wahlberg goes crazy after he, I guess, realizes it's his time to kill Topher Grace. And he gets handcuffed to the side of the prop plane in the back. And Michelle Dockery is like, we don't have a pilot. Hey, anybody out there? And Mark Wahlberg's like, you need a pilot? And then it like cuts.
Yeah.
And it was kind of dumb. Not gonna lie, from the trailer. It was like good, and then it wasn't.
See, and then so there are memes online where it's like, yeah, I could land a plane. Like,
I'll figure it out.
Like, and that's just something that like men think. Like, they can land a plane.
Well, it's a prop plane.
Yeah.
Like, man,
slow down and
man,
then just.
This is my thing about the prop plane. Okay, now hear me out. Man brain taking over here.
Okay.
The wheels don't go anywhere, right? Like it's not like a jet where
wheels
like
are always down.
they're down.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not like you're in like a carrier jet where the wheels kind of go up into the body, and you got to figure out what button puts those back without turning off the engine. Prop plane will stay. Prop plane will stay. Man brain sticking strong here. So I'm gonna assume that I could land a prop plane in need be. Or is it gonna be a soft one? No, but like I feel like I could help us out. I feel like we'd survive.
So I'm looking at the image here of the plane of the was the movie
Flight Risk.
What? No, here. What is that?
Sorry, which one?
Sorry, what do you call that photo? The movie photo.
Are you talking about the poster?
The poster, the movie poster. I'm looking at it, and so the plane is one of those tricycle ones. So the front wheel is underneath the prop. So you got lucky there that it's not the two wheels,
right?
And the wheels in the back, because you can easily
extra balance,
brake too hard, and nose over. So this one, you actually lucked out. You are going to be able to land on the rear wheels and let it drop that front wheel down, but don't hit too hard because that prop will shove the front wheel into the engine, and you don't want to do that. So
I still think I could do it.
You lucked out. Like, it's going to be a little easier this time, but a lot of people, like I played Microsoft Flight Simulator, all right, and I've pressed the brake a little too hard, and that plane's just gone straight over in.
Yeah.
So
we have a lot of friends from where we went to college who are like in aviation. At least I do. I don't know who you know.
I had
from
a
aviation.
roommate.
Yeah. They're probably listening to this like face palming really hard.
Yeah.
But I will take my overconfidence and say I could land a 3-wheeled prop plane, even with Mark Wahlberg putting on a terrible country accent, handcuffed to the back.
Yeah, I mean, basically just throttle down and
pray.
Make sure you hit the asphalt. I mean, that's about it, right, guys?
I think my favorite part of the trailer, and I guess I should say first, critics and audiences seem unsure how they feel, kind of like how we are. We just watched the trailer. We're like, I don't know. Critics and audiences both kind of gave it like a C, like a middle of the road, like a 60, almost 50%. People are like, it was all right. But yeah, I don't know. I from thinking back to the trailer, I don't remember Topher Grace more than once. He was just kind of there. He's just kind of the prisoner, and he's like, oh no. And then that's it.
It could have one of those twists where Topher and Mark are actually in it.
Yeah, they
for some reason,
work together.
Somehow in it together.
Turns out the agent was the person they were trying to hit, and Topher Grace is the mastermind.
Yeah. Or the agent actually orchestrated it, and
the possibilities.
I don't know, man. That would be the most positive outcome of this movie. For it to not turn out the way you expect it to turn out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I like Mel Gibson as a director, so I will probably be in seats, and I might enjoy it more than I would assume I would, just from what I've seen in the trailer. But I can say, like, originally, again, the first 30 seconds of the trailer, I was like, okay. And then the end, I was like, eh.
And so, to finish off this movie, because it's done by Mel Gibson, and to get political here, Trump has named him as one of the Hollywood ambassadors. So,
yeah, he has. Which interesting.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
You recommend me movies to watch in the White House.
Here you go. Flight Risk. There you go.
It's just all his movies. Next you're watching Braveheart.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, Disney's Mufasa and Sony TriStar's One of Them Days battle it out for second in the box office, both coming in around $8 million as of last me watching, I think Mufasa is edging One of Them Days just a little bit. Like, I
Really?
think by like 800,000 or something to that effect. So Mufasa sticking it out at second. One of Them Days right behind it at third. So continuing with its popular trend as of last week as an upstart winning. I think it won the box office last week, if I remember correctly. Going down the list, Sonic 3 will more than likely hold on to fourth place while its expected earning rolling in around 5.1 million. And rounding out the top five, we have a close battle for fifth taking place between Disney's Moana 2 and the debut of horror film Presence from Steven Soderbergh and Neon. As of recording, it's looking like Moana is going to outpace Presence in the end, earning an estimated 4.3 compared to Presence 3.4 million. So that was your quick top five. Obviously, there's a lot more films on the box office list. Jake, what are your thoughts over the top five and kind of what's been panning out outside of Flight Risk? And do you have any biggest winners and losers from this past week?
I would say Wolfman lost pretty quickly, dropping down to seventh even in their second week. Which, I mean, you have two Disney shows and then Paramount. So Sony's One of Them Days seems to be doing pretty well on social media at least. So Universal kind of just got stuck with the crappy end of the stick. But tell the audience about what you know with Presence and how that is told.
So I've had my eye on this for a really long time. I'm a big fan of. I'm pretty sure it's Neon that distributed that one. Was Presence? Neon's gotten me twice this past year. Both Longlegs and Cuckoo were two films that I was like, ooh, those look really good, and they turned out to be not what I expected. Like, not in a terrible way, but not as good as I thought. But I digress. I love Neon. So I've had my eye on this Soderbergh film for a long time, and it's told from the perspective of the spirit that haunts this family. And it's really unique. And I was telling Jake beforehand that there is a moment in the trailer. If you haven't watched the trailer, go watch it. And if you enjoy the trailer, please go see the movie. In the trailer, there's a moment where this family, and I'm assuming this is after some brief activity, they bring in this medium, and the medium's describing the spirit that you are watching through the story be told. And the medium says, it's trying to figure you out. And that, like, and I know that's such an easy line. It doesn't really sound like a lot, but for me, it kind of stuck with me because it's like, if this is early in the film, now I've not seen it, so this could be middle of the film, right? But if that line and if this kind of experience is told early, the audience is also trying to figure out the characters. So there's this thing of like connectivity to this main character, even though you don't ever see the spirit, you just see the activity that it does. And apparently, it's got a really good twist at the end that I've heard people talk about. It'd be really interesting for me. That was kind of like, ooh, like that kind of sticks with you because it's like, I'm seeing this through that perspective, and that's like really true because I am also trying to figure out this family that I've just got introduced to. So yeah, I mean, I think I've not really seen any horror film do that where it's literally like first person almost perspective from the spirit haunting a family. When you think of like Paranormal Activity, that's completely through. That's an also like a unique found footage, and it's told through all the cameras, and you see the activity happen. But imagine if you're watching Paranormal Activity, and when the footsteps are going, like in the first one, for example, they place down the baby powder. And you see the footsteps walking through it. Imagine if you were the ghost, like from the first person walking to the door, tracking the steps. That would be interesting. Like I find that fascinating. So I'm interested. I'm going to be watching this in the near future, and I'll let you know what I think.
Awesome. Is that it for this segment?
I'm gonna go through real quick, and I agree with your Wolfman kind of your explanation. Again, we talked about this last week. I'm not going to talk on this a lot because I went over how upset I was that Wolfman was kind of, because again, I thought it looked interesting, and it's depressing that they kind of, it looked like they ran out of steam in the creative process a little bit. Like, and it sucks because I think Wolfman, in terms of like the idea of, oh, we're on vacation and this unknown creature gives a scratch and you watch the transformation, like that's cool to me. I think it's a lot of thriller, a lot of really like untapped potential, or at least in this old, because Wolfman's been something that's been around for a long time. Again, biggest loser. This is the second straight week that Wolfman has hit our biggest loser mark. And our biggest winner, we didn't really go over one. I will say, I think, again, it's got to be Mufasa. You're in week 6. Sonic 3 is doing well, and I'm not even going to talk about our bet because it's not looking good for me. But I will say for Mufasa, the fact that it is still second, it doesn't really matter these like sleepy weeks, these less than normal earnings in terms of weeks. The fact that they're still earning 8 million in slow weeks. What are they going to do whenever they when people go back to theaters? It's warm now. This next weekend's probably going to bring a lot more people to theaters. One of them days is going to see a big jump, I really think, because again, its first 2 weeks were in slower weekends. What's going to happen when all of a sudden more people are back in theaters? So I think one of them days is right beneath Mufasa for me for biggest winners. But the fact that they're 6 weeks in and they're still coming out top 3, top 2, maybe even 1 next week in the box office I think that's a big deal for them.
Yeah, we'll see flight risk. Maybe not next week, but the third week, flight risk will drop. Probably out of the top 5, and then
it'll be gone. I mean, it's going to be Den of Thieves 2 over again.
Yeah, I mean, Den of Thieves right now is actually at 9 on its third week.
Such a steep decline.
Yeah, so we foresee flight risk drop, and then Mufasa will probably be around for another 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, it's still 3,400 theaters are providing Mufasa. Same with like Sonic, 3,000 theaters providing Sonic still. Now, there's a decent decline. I mean, it's 200 theaters every week that are dropping these movies. And then the only one I'm actually seeing gaining theaters is The Brutalist, which
that's been a constant the last couple of weeks too, though.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of marketing for The Brutalist coming out. I see like TikTok and then commercials. So I think they're pushing marketing out a little bit more, at least to my demographic or whatever they've targeted.
Yeah.
I'm within that pool, so I get a lot of The Brutalist.
I almost wonder if, because, The Brutalist has been out for a minute now. It's not like this is week 2. This is week like 4, maybe 5. I wonder if they purposefully did the slow release, allowed the hype to build for it, and then did the large rollout so close to the Oscars for this reason. That's got to be what it is, because it just. Have you ever seen a film this critically acclaimed that gets this slow of a rollout on like a national scale? I don't know. I don't know one.
Not that I was necessarily paying attention beforehand, but I will now, and I'll let you know if this becomes a common theme. Maybe even next year when the next Oscars come out, we'll see if somebody's trying to do the Brutalist move and hold it. But I think it's probably more common than we know.
If you in the comments know of a film that did this, give us a history lesson, please, and we'll give you a shout out next week.
Of course.
All right, and that's going to be it for segment 1. Coming up after the break, we've got official Oscar nominations. Who received the most love? Find out next. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Screen. You made it to segment 2. We've always talked about major news in this segment, and in this segment, we're going to talk about the Oscar nominations. That's really all we got for you. That's the biggest piece of news that came out this past week. So they were made official this past week, broadcasting live from California. This past Thursday, comedians Rachel Sennott and Boeing Yang revealed the official noms for each category. Of the nominations, Emilia Perez leads all projects with 13 nominations, including for Best Picture, Actress, Director, and... Oh, sorry, I did picture twice. Excuse me. Wicked and The Brutalist both come in at second with 10, including both running for Best Picture. Adrian Brody and Cynthia Erivo are both for Best Actor and Actress, respectively, etc., and a few other, obviously. I think there are like 8 other nominations they got. Other films with high nominations include A Complete Unknown and Conclave with 8. Anora grabbed 6 nominations, while The Substance earned 5, and Nosferatu has 4 nominations. What are your takeaways, Jake, from all these? Obviously, there's a lot of information to go over. But with that being said, looking at this list, what's your biggest takeaways?
My biggest takeaway would be, I think Wicked's got some potential to win several. I would say a lot of people like Wicked just for every single picture and actress, and
it was the biggest film of the year,
right? I mean, everybody was talking about this one. The Brutalist, I would say. I mean, as much as I want Adrian Brody to pull one out again, I sent you something over the weekend that was like Adrian would be he was one of the youngest to win an Oscar, I think.
Back in 03 or 04.
Something like that. And then somebody's in the running now to like a Gen Z. There has never been a Gen Z Oscar winner. And so this could be the year we see the first Gen Z Oscar winner. I think the youngest Oscar winner is somewhere in like the 97 or 98 born.
Yeah.
So we could see like the first like 2000s baby win an Oscar, which is kind of crazy for at least our generation. Well, I don't know about you. You're a little old.
I was born in 2000. All right, okay. Let's back up here a little bit. I'm not that old.
All right, but
dog looks at. I'm 24. This dog looks at me and goes, "You're old."
Yeah. Yeah, well, what was it? We were watching...
we're one of the... That's something we'll talk about later. Is a bunch of horror trailers got released, and one of them, a character looks up, and they call him old, and the character looks up and goes, "I'm only 24," and I look up, and Jake is hard-eyeing me. Like, I mean... Like, damn it, man.
They thought he was like 40-something.
Yeah, they're like, "You're 45. Why are you here?" "I'm 24." That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's how you look.
Yeah, thanks. Wow.
No,
Well, this is how we end. No more Beyond the Screen, Jake. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get a new. I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
He's gonna have to call one of his other film buddies.
Yeah.
So, all right.
But no, I think you're completely right. I would be. I think Wicked will probably clean up a lot of the Oscar, or at least Oscar winners. However, I would really. So another question I'm going to ask later is like, which film outside of the obvious, like 2 or 3? So we talk about Emilia Perez, we talk about Wicked, we talk about obviously The Brutalist. Which of the kind of, and I don't even call them lesser known, because Conclave is the film I'm going to talk about. It's earned what, 6 noms, 8 noms? Like, it's obviously very, very like respected, and people are looking forward to it. But I don't feel like people are talking about it a lot in the Best Picture. And I think Conclave or Honora are these films that will win Best Picture versus some of these others that I think are more obvious. I think you get a lot of these non-traditional films in here that you usually wouldn't see. And for my pitch for Conclave early is like why I could see this happening. I'm not making a prediction, but it's more like I could see Honora or Conclave winning it over a Wicked, over a The Brutalist. Because, especially for Conclave, it is so far the leading frontrunner for the BAFTA nomination for Best Picture. And BAFTA is like the British version of the Oscars. And not that there's like a lot of correlation between the two, but I can see that hype transcending just the aisle, just the British aisle, just over there, across the pond, I should say. And that could influence some decision making over here in the Oscars. I don't know. I think Wicked will win. I think Best Actress. I think Cynthia Erivo, not that she doesn't have any competition, but I think that one's a shoe-in for her anyway. I think it should win probably Best Wardrobe. I think Nosferatu will make a good push for that. But, anyway, I think none of these are official predictions, but like, you know what I'm saying? So I would be very interested to see in terms of Best Picture, who else will give the greatest push for these obvious answers. Do you have one that you look at and you say, ooh, that one could come really close?
Probably animated feature, as much as I want it to be. Of the two that I have seen, The Wild Robot and Wallace and Gromit, Wild Robot heaps and bounds better than Wallace and Gromit, but I see a lot of people talking about Flow, and then Inside Out 2 is just an obvious one. But is it? I thought The Wild Robot was so heartwarming, and I don't know enough about Inside Out 2 to claim that it is as heartwarming, if not more. And even like the first Inside Out, that was pretty darn heartwarming. I mean, they had a death of a character in this kids movie.
Bing bong.
Yeah. So, and then The Wild Robot kind of, I mean, it's heartwarming, man. And they finally, so animated feature, and then Flow, that's up in the air. That's like nobody talks in that, and it's from the perspective of a cat, or it follows a cat.
No dialogue.
So,
reminder to those at home, Flow shocked everybody and won Best Picture or Best Animated Film at the Golden Globes, which is the second biggest film/TV award ceremony in the States. So I think I know you want Wild Robot, but I think there's every reason to be fearful for Flow because people love this film.
I need to find out how to get my hands on it and actually watch it, and I'll let you know. I think cinematography could probably also be a toss between Dune Part 2 and The Brutalist, but I don't know what The Brutalist looks like. I have seen Dune Part 2, and so the cinematography in that,
it's top notch. It's amazing.
That's why I'm like, I haven't seen The Brutalist, but those two could be in the running. If I had to do costume design, it could be Nosferatu.
I think cinematography and costume design, I would be very wary of Nosferatu because, I mean, like, you were transported to that time unlike any film I've ever seen.
Right.
I don't know. I look at, you're just talking about cinematography. I would be, at least for me personally, I'd be hard pressed not to give it to Nosferatu. Now, I've not seen The Brutalist. I've seen Dune. I think obviously like this is going to be a tough matchup, but we have an upcoming special where we predict these. So this is nowhere near us officially predicting. This is us saying, okay, which ones will be on upset alert, if you will, if you're a sports fan, which of these high ranking films that are shoe-ins for these categories, what film would upset them is kind of what we're talking about. So I'd like to see what people are discussing in terms of cinematography, like, because if it's overall cinematography, almost like you have to go Nosferatu, but Nosferatu was nowhere near as popular as Emilia Perez or Dune. So,
right. And then so for that episode, hopefully we're a whole lot more researched.
Oh, we will be.
And we've actually seen the majority of these. I think the last thing is I just want to make fun is achievement in visual effects. So on the docket, it's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and then you also have Better Man. So two monkey films.
Two monkey films.
And so best of visual effects. So who did Better Monkey? Right. So that's definitely going to be, I think that's going to be a subcategory that here at Beyond the Screen we're going to create. And who had the better monkey?
Who did monkey better?
Yeah. Regardless of who's actually going to get the visual effects, there is also who did best monkey.
So another thing I would like to really keep an eye on is, remember last week we talked about The Brutalist and their AI controversies. The lead editor for The Brutalist, David Jansko, he is nominated. He's been nominated. He's on the front runner for winning that award. I wonder in the next few weeks, I think it's 4 or 5 weeks away, I wonder what part this controversy will play in that award going out. Because again, I've not seen The Brutalist. It goes up against, so the other editors who are up for nominations are Sean Baker from Anora, Conclave's Nick Emerson, Amelia Perez, Juliette Welfling, and Wicked's Myron Kirstein. So, you know, all these are also really hugely popular films that are, obviously we've talked about, like all these, the other 4 we've talked about in other categories. Will that controversy affect David in a way that the others don't have? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think it boils down to, I mean, obviously these are finalized nominations, so the Oscars haven't taken his nomination away and put somebody else there. So it's either, I mean, it really is the definition of is AI a tool in the sense that the way he used it, and who is the deciding factor, who gets to make that decision. So is it the leader of the owner or whoever does the Oscars? Like, does a committee of the Oscars come together and decide whether or not that his use of it was a tool, or in some other sense that would disqualify him from winning an Oscar in film editing? I think that's what it boils down to. And then I assume other awards could decide whether or not that, but it really does boil down to like that definition of how he used it. Is that a tool within an editor's suite, or was it crossing a line? And I don't think there's one single source of truth. It will be whomever is judging the film at that current time.
It'll be interesting. And I think that will set, like I talked last week about how there's a double standard, you know, exactly kind of what you just painted. This will be a good way to see where that lies with the Hollywood elite. Where does that double standard? Because if they say they give it to David and The Brutalist, that kind of signals to that reverberates. You throw a rock in a pond and it's the exact same thing. You see the ripple effect out into the rest of the industry. Hey, you can use it as a tool. If he doesn't, I don't think that necessarily says the opposite, but it insinuates.
So and we can't necessarily talk about AI without talking about with the writer strike and all of that. So AI has already been leaching its way into Hollywood and being used, you know, at what point? And then they were also doing faces. So the Actors Guild was also striking because their likeness was being used and created with AI.
You had background doubles that I think it was Disney or someone, what they were wanting to for your lifetime. They wanted you to sign a contract where they could scan in your face into AI and use you as a background character for the rest of your life, for eternity.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's a big reason why the Actors Guild went on strike as well. It was because like you had just ridiculousness like this, and it was like, so I completely agree.
I mean, and they better pay me for every movie they use me in. I want the royalties on that movie.
Like at the end of the day, hey, I'm all for you scanning my face and I only have to do one film's worth of work. But exactly, you better pay me for every time you use my face
and my estate. After I die, if it's truly eternity.
I got to make it worth my while.
Yeah, for my kids, their grandkids. I mean, if Disney's going to be around for the next 1,000 years,
forever,
and they keep using me, eventually turning me into my own 3D AI virtual reality character, like a NPC in Skyrim, you know. It's like, oh, there's Jacob.
There he is.
There he is. Yeah. So every time someone talks to me, I want my great grandchildren to be paid. So even if it is pre-war cash, whatever, like Fallout, it doesn't mean anything at that point, but pennies on the dollar.
I got my 5-cent check from Disney today.
Hey,
That's 5 cents. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 5 cents they wouldn't
Got that
have.
cash.
And in the future, who knows how much 5 cents is going to be? Probably not.
Pebbles.
But
Rocks. Going back to going to finish off our conversation, I have just a couple more points that I'd love to get your opinions on. Well, first, we talk about how I'm a big horror advocate and Jake is not necessarily the biggest horror fan. But we both watched a horror movie together where we've talked about horror movies a lot. We'll continue in the next segment to talk about the genre. What a big year for the genre. And I'm going to specifically, we've already talked about Nosferatu, and it's in a ton of runnings for various different, four, I should say, genres of categories. However, another one I really want to give some just clout to and some shout out to is The Substance. Best Picture. Demi Moore wins Best Leading Actress. It's got 3 more that I just haven't been able to see on this list. What a year for horror, and like great for The Substance. I don't think it will win Best Picture, but like the fact that it got that nomination, that's a big deal for a genre that has been historically exempt from these award ceremonies.
I think that horror movies are generally they always seem to tell a original story or more original. And in this world, this day and age, is we're not seeing originality, and horror is just taking it and running with it. I mean, we've mentioned several different horror movies that have just been told. I mean, Nosferatu was not. I mean, it is a retelling, but it's to the point where, yeah, it's its own film. Nosferatu 2024 is its own.
It stands out.
Yeah. So I think horror has always been a level of original, and we can see it this year being a force to be reckoned with because of that. Substance and even this year's movies coming out too, they're all like presence. So unique. It's very unique, and it's not necessarily been told from that perspective or told differently. And I think horror's always kind of alluded to that of themselves. So I think we'll continue seeing that even next year.
Yeah, and I think expertly said. And my last topic, because we're running over on this segment just a little bit. Wicked director John M. Chu not nominated for Best Director with a film that was nominated 10 times. A film that was nominated for almost every category, at least every major category you could imagine. John M. Chu is not nominated for Best Director for, as we said at the top, arguably the film's most popular, or the year's most popular film. What do you make of that?
He pissed somebody off.
You think so?
I don't know.
It's just weird, right?
Pissed on someone's Cheerios, I guess.
You look at the list. So right now, achievement in directing, the nominees are Sean Baker of Anora, Brady Corbet's The Brutalist, James Mangold with A Complete Unknown, Jacques Audiard with Amelia Perez, and the Substance director, excuse me because I'm going to butcher this, Coralie Fargeet. I cannot pronounce her name. I apologize. But all of these directors, more than deserving, because all of these films have people just keep talking about them. I've seen a couple. No, I don't know if I've seen any of these actually. I haven't seen any of these, but everyone just keeps talking about them. So like they have more than earned their place on this list. But again, the year's most popular film, that director doesn't get an achievement in directing at least nomination.
So who is in charge of nominating the Oscars, I think, is who we start with to track that down. And it is a bunch of Hollywood people. Yeah. Right? So you got to have to look back throughout the year and see, is like, what's that director been up to with this movie, and what goes into deciding best director. Is it strictly, how'd that director perform in doing this movie, and so yeah, how do you judge a director?
I am noticing that all these there are 5 of these, all of them are original,
right?
And Wicked is technically an adaptation, so I wonder if that played a part. Because Dune wasn't even, or Denis Villeneuve wasn't even nominated.
Could be. I mean, that's just why I'm not privy to that knowledge, and it might be accessible elsewhere, but I'm
not either.
I mean, what goes into deciding a nomination for a costume design, or what are these? And I understand it's like, oh, they had really great costumes in Gladiator 2 and Nosferatu. And Wicked and all these movies that are nominated. However, is there a checklist, or is it strictly just, hey, Ryan, what costume did you like in these movies? Which ones do you think were best? And that's what's nominated. I don't know. I work off of that. Is how is it decided? What do I need to be looking for? Do I need to be looking, okay, so color use or extravagance or time correct, like period correct costumes is like I work off of that checklist.
Yeah.
And so
You almost want it to be like that, but also I feel like, so I'm a sports nut too. I worked in sports for a really long time. And I think there's a lot of crossover actually between media and just sports media in general. And so in this instance, what I'm talking about is like in a lot of times so say like postseason tournaments for sports, it's if not decided by record, it's decided by the eyeball test. And it's like sometimes numbers cannot tell you what is success. You can just look at a team and say they're better. You can have two teams out of the exact same record that have the exact same resume, and you have to give one the number one seed. And I think in terms of film, it works very similarly because it's like, yeah, you want there to be some checklist, but at the end of the day, it's like, what about Nosferatu makes it best wardrobe? Other than that, it just was outstanding.
Yeah.
It's like you can put all these checklists on it, but so I think it's tough. I think there is a mix. You don't want it to be Hollywood elites to kind of cherry pick and gatekeep what is cinema. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to have some subjectivity to it because that's what makes the whole business is subjectivity. Like that's like part of the love of what we do is that you can take things different ways. So I think someone's always going to be angry, but I don't know. I hope there's a checklist somewhere, but I hope that it's not just like there needs to be that subjectivity, but it cannot be Hollywood elites deciding what is cinema that day, because then you have moving goalposts.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, last 3 years, these types of films have won. Say you're a small budget production company. Like last 3 years, these huge production companies have done X, Y, and Z. I'm going to copy that. You can copy it to a T. And then all of a sudden, if it's that way where you have these elites deciding what is what, you finally get there. Sure, you might get nominated, but then all of a sudden the goalposts move because elitist best friend works for Universal. So that's a good point. I'm not privy either to what goes into these nominations, other than that a lot of people with a lot of money who've done this for a very long time and probably have white hair are deciding who does what.
Yeah. And it could be like, what is the trends now? Like back in the day, modern like futurism or retrofuturism, or like mullets were a thing in the 80s.
Gangster films.
Yeah.
So you don't see those anymore.
Costume design is... mullets are in now, jean jackets and stuff like that. And so it could also play into culture and society right now. In that goalpost may be completely different in 5 to 10 years, where mullets are out and then front mullets are in, where everybody shaves the back of their head and then they let it grow over their eyes. I don't know. Who knows? And so it could be also that level of society changes and taste changes with it. So I didn't like that costume because he did a back mullet instead of a front mullet.
That was so 2027.
No,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, I didn't like the carpet he used. That's so 2080.
Which is again cherry picking and gatekeeping.
Right.
So, I think that's a great place to stop here. Let us know what you think about just Hollywood awards. I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with it. I know a lot of people boycott these types of things because of that reason. But I'd love to hear why. And if you don't boycott, why are you watching? I'd love to hear that too. Anyway, that concludes segment 2. Coming up, your quick hits. Welcome back to Beyond the Screen. You made it to segment 3, our quick hits, where we go over everything that we haven't had enough to talk about in our major segment, but we're going to give you kind of a quick rundown of what's been going on so that you are in the know of everything around Hollywood. If you made it this far, thank you so much. As always, I know we kind of do this every time, and it's probably a little bit cliche at this point, but if you've really made it this far in the show, we're 38, 39 minutes deep. Thank you so much, because just giving us that time is kind of crazy. And we really do appreciate you. So as I've said before, comment, give us a like, give us a share, whatever you're listening on. Hit that heart, hit that thumbs up, and share it with people who you think also have opinions on this type of thing. And I would love to hear their opinions too. We would love to add a segment into this. I think I've said this a couple of times now, but where we discuss with the audience about film and watch films that people want us to see, and we do that whole nine. So Jake's giving me a blank stare, so I think that means it's time to move on from our things. But
I was thinking about that new segment and how we would. I think we'd be willing to have like that third caller in, same way with your brother.
It'd be
last
so
segment.
nice.
Yeah, and so we'd be willing to actually bring someone on. Let us hear your opinions. Tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah.
Tell us why you guys don't know what you're talking about.
Voice notes would be cool. Like imagine it to be like a radio show, like with a caller, where it's like send in a voice note and let us know what you think, and then we'll respond to it on the fly and do multiple people.
Yep.
That stuff would be cool. Let us know if you like stuff like that, and if you do like stuff like that and you think, ooh, that'd be exciting, you're the person we want to hear from. So please let us know. Anyway, we'll move right into segment 3 because we got a decent amount of stuff to go over. We're going to start with Robert Eggers. So first reported by The Hollywood Reporter, Eggers has penned a deal with Focus Features, who also distributed Eggers' last feature, Nosferatu, for his next horror-themed period piece titled Werewolf or Werewolf. The film will take place in 13th century England and is co-written by Icelandic poet Bjorn, who also co-wrote Robert Eggers' The Northman. So quick thoughts, real quick before we move on. What do you think about Eggers' monster kick?
Well, I think he's reading too much. Put down the book. No.
Nerd.
Yeah. Gosh. So he's done vampires. He's gonna do werewolves. He's gonna do the Loch Ness monster, and then
Ooh, yeah.
or what's
Mothman.
Mothman. He could do Mothman. But what's the one? Isn't it just like a fish man? What is that?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know.
So Monsters vs. Aliens had Link.
Oh, yeah, the Missing Link.
Missing Link.
Yeah,
You could do something like that.
But it's got to be Will Arnett in a
Well,
giant costume.
Yeah, you could do that. Well, I don't know. Way of Water kind of did
Yeah.
some kind of weird. Anyway, but I think if he's gonna do this, he's got to make a third one. You know?
He's got to complete the trilogy.
Yeah, so he's got to. I mean, it's werewolves and vampires, and then what?
If not for Guillermo del Toro doing a Frankenstein, that's what I would say.
Yeah,
I'd be very fascinated to see
zombies. It's zombies.
It is zombies. Whoa, what is like an early historical like version of zombies? Because it's got to be something really unique. Because I'm tired. Like the westernized zombie is so like dry. Like I love like Japanese like Eastern, so like I can't pronounce what they call it, but just that the difference in ideology and what the Living Dead is. I want to see Robert Eggers to tackle that. I think that's a great idea.
Or aliens.
It
It could be aliens. We've seen a lot of aliens, but that is also
he would
route.
freak. He's freaky, man. I would be whatever he wants to do. I'm
Probing.
on board. Ooh.
Yeah, you want to talk about freaky.
Anyways, Eggers has also been tapped to direct a sequel to Jim Henson's cult classic Labyrinth at TriStar, also being co-wrote by Bjorn. The film is explicitly labeled as a sequel and not a remake. The original Labyrinth synopsis is, quote, 16-year-old Sarah, who's played by Jennifer Connelly, is given 13 hours to solve a labyrinth and rescue her baby brother Toby when her wish for him to be taken away is granted by the Goblin King Jareth, who is David Bowie. So plot details are being kept very quiet at the moment, so no one really knows a lot about what's going on. In fact, I'm pretty sure that there were a couple of other spin-offs / other sequel ideas from, I know Fede Alvarez, who did Alien Romulus, was tapped to do the spin-off movie / series, and that never got off the ground, and there was another project that really didn't go anywhere. So this is the third attempt by TriStar to do something unique with this series, and we'll see. I think Robert Eggers is the right guy for it. I think he's the right guy for anything, to be completely honest with you. But we'll see how things roll out with this. I'm interested. I'm not really familiar with Labyrinth. I've seen the scene where David Bowie is like a ball, and he's like doing the weird thing with. And apparently that was another actor who he had like behind his back actually doing the tricks because David couldn't do it himself, and it's a funny behind the scenes thing. So I'm interested to see what Eggers does with a more lighthearted yet still very dark story. And how are they going to recast David Bowie? That's going to be a challenge because Sir Bowie is a little bit of a legend. I don't know if you've heard, but he's kind of popular. We'll see. In the last note of Robert Eggers, because he had a very busy week, he sat down with Rotten Tomatoes and opened up about his affection for making period pieces as opposed to stories set in modern times, stating, quote, the idea of having to photograph a car makes me ill, and the idea of photographing a cell phone is just death. And to make a contemporary story, you have to photograph a cell phone. It's just how life is. So no. When asked how close to modern day he might tell a story, Eggers relented. I don't know. I might potentially go to 1950, but before World War II is more inviting for my imagination. So Jake, what do you think about Eggers and, well, one, about Labyrinth, if you have anything, and two, why like his dedication to pre-1950?
Yeah, I can get behind what he said. One of my short films, I based it off of a painting, and it was definitely 1970s level. And so I didn't plan to show a phone. I am limited by the technology of my time, where I would probably have to show a pretty new stove if I were ever to film that short film. But I didn't plan to do a phone. I didn't want to. Usually when you introduce a phone, just the visual effects behind introducing a phone becomes strenuous for even a short film project. And then to do it right on the big screen, you I don't even know what goes into it, but there are special apps that connect to phones or connect to computers, and a computer will actually write out and the visual graphics will be sent to the iPhone through this app, and and you control the app within the iPhone. The actor, I think, can put some inputs into it, but it's generally controlled by somebody else.
That's insane.
On set.
Yeah.
And it's just an app you can get for your phone. Now, I don't know if that's what they're doing on Hollywood, but I've seen that app being used in short film and more independent type films. It's somebody actually is on set controlling the movement of the phone. But yeah, generally cars, phones, anything technology wise, computers, it just adds that extra level of good grief.
Yeah.
I have to deal with this. So I can get behind the period pieces, especially, I mean, I lean more on the 60s, 70s and a little easier with the lack of technology, but it's still readily available technology. Like I can go to Facebook Marketplace and acquire a 1970s lamp. You know, I can build a set as an independent guy shooting short films.
Especially if you're in a single location.
Yeah, so you start talking about Nosferatu with like oil lamps and
the entire Germanic like village scape, which was nuts, you know. So I do understand
which we don't see anymore, which is why the imagination of Robert Eggers can flourish is because he can just take Germanic buildings and interiors and sets and just take them up a notch. I mean, Defoe's house was insane.
Yeah.
And it was so darkly lit that Eggers could get away with a lot.
It felt huge,
but it felt cramped.
Yeah. Well, I thought it had like really lofted ceilings. Like, yeah,
but he had shit everywhere.
Of course. He was cluttered, but like it felt bigger than, at least in terms of height, I guess. It felt like he had vaulted ceilings is what I was referring to.
Yeah. I think they had probably 12 foot, 9 foot, 12 foot ceilings. So, but yeah, so I agree with him on going old, just because I think, electronics kind of suck the life and fun out of doing period pieces.
Well, also it's like it's an interesting challenge, you know, like we just talked about. Like if you're in one location, like you can buy these certain sets that make it feel that way. But again, like the idea of having to build a village, like that's nuts. Yeah. I completely agree. And you made some really good points. So we're gonna go ahead and move on here. So Ryan Gosling in Star Wars. As per The Hollywood Reporter exclusive, Gosling is in talks to star in Deadpool Wolverine director Sean Levy's upcoming Star Wars film. While negotiations are currently underway, Gosling signing the dotted line would put immediate wind in the sails of the film, with shoot dates potentially starting later this year. Plot details are limited, or as are any details really surrounding the film, but the film is being written by the Adam Project's Jonathan Trooper, and who has been at work on the script for over a year now. So Jake, does this gauge your excitement a little bit? I know how much you like Gosling.
Well, because I'm literally him. I already knew about this, so
I'm waiting to sign that contract.
Yeah, actually, they haven't gotten it to me. That's the problem.
Man, Disney's slow.
Yeah, so I don't know if they know that I live in Kentucky.
No,
so.
That's tough.
I don't know anything that Jonathan has done. Who's writing this script? I always generally I judge a movie by, do I think the actors were the problem? Do I think the director was the problem? Do I think the writer was the problem when a movie flops or, in my opinion, didn't do as well? So that would be my question is Jonathan, what else has he done? So I'm looking it up right now. He's done like a series called Banshee, which I have not seen. He's done, and I'm looking it up on the fly right now, he did the TV series with Momoa. I really liked that one, and so if he wrote those, he wrote 7 episodes during that TV series, and they're really good. So just going by that, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, and I like the Adam Project. I thought it was pretty well written. Also, his name is Tropper. Excuse me. Yeah, it's Tropper. I just instinctually said Trooper when I was reading it, but his name is Tropper. Tropper.
So,
or Troper.
And then he's directing a TV. He seems to be into TV a lot. So that's kind of what I'm not too sure about, is he's doing a lot of TV and not so much the screenplays. So
I'll be interested
for
to
a Star
see.
Wars movie.
There's so much ridicule. The thing is, what has to happen is, and I think I've read months and months ago that Sean Levy's wanting to do something really unique and like not connected to the Skywalker saga with this. So if that's the case and he can kind of do his own take, I have more faith. I think Sean Levy's a very creative director, and I'm really excited to see what he comes up with. If they're allowing Troper, and I apologize again for mispronouncing your name, if they can allow him, he seems to be an accomplished writer. He seems to be an accomplished screenwriter. If they can allow him to just be unique and just kind of have fun with it, especially Ryan Gosling can lead anything. Sean Levy's a proven, established director. If they have just a fun script that doesn't break any of the already, technically Star Wars doesn't have any rules, but as long as you don't shatter kind of what's already established and you just do your own thing, I'm way on board. Like think about what Rogue One did, and that's in the Skywalker saga.
Right.
Super unique, super interesting. They were just able to have fun and fit it in an area of the story that was super just kind of vague. So I imagine without that, you don't have those limitations of it has to fit in this timeline. So I don't know. I'm interested. I'm honestly fascinated. I'm hoping this is a good film.
And I would pose the question: Is George going to be on set? Because you say that the rules aren't there, but the Star Wars fans and the people who will want to watch it, who are there for Star Wars and will always give it a chance, no matter who's doing it, if it's Disney, if it's anybody, they will be there to judge it. And so I would argue that even if it's not same timeline and you want to go Old Republic, you want to go future, way past Skywalker,
even Rey,
forgotten about Rey, 200,000 years ahead of time, and midichlorians are still a thing, or XYZ, whatever evil regime is controlling the galaxy at this point. I still think, George, how does this galaxy work? I mean, it's going back to source material. This is the guy who created the universe.
Yeah.
And so how do things work in George's universe, even if it is 200,000 years ahead or behind?
I would want to see, like, to be honest, I want to see like lawless Star Wars. Like we've had these attempts, like imagine, and I don't think this is like a super, and I know we're going way overboard with this one topic, but I don't think this is a super outlandish idea to think about that just solar system. They're all kind of under one government. You have the Outer Rim and stuff that kind of are outside of that, but the Republic has fallen twice now. Some evil empire type, whether it's the First Order, whether it's the actual empire, has taken over and people have gotten mad. In real life, what would probably happen is you'd have like little sects of different belief systems popping up, and instead of having one overarching government, you'd have a bunch of different, almost like oligarchies, like smaller. What would happen if that was the case in this amazing universe? I would love to see like a lawless, almost like think about like the Wild West type, where it's like you just have craziness going on. There's no overbearing one like main empire or republic. There's a bunch of struggle for power from a bunch of different bodies, and you follow characters as they navigate a governmentless galaxy.
I thought I saw something that was doing exactly that, kind of where some stormtroopers didn't. They kept going. They didn't. I don't know if they didn't believe it or they didn't want to fall to the New Republic, and they kept being stormtroopers.
Yes.
And then they became their own gang. There is something in the works, or if it's already out, doing exactly
but just that to a monumental scale. That I would be, and I think that's an easy transition to make, because I mean it makes sense in terms of a story of like, these governments don't work, let me try my own thing, and then you have 50 different sects of government in it that would make intergalactic travel that much more unique, because instead of just being able to fly from one system to the next, you don't got to worry about what government's there. And so it's like, I think that just makes, it's just rich, just for the making. I don't know. But anyway, I think it's time to move on. We're going to talk about Dave Franco. So in an interview with the Hollywood Reporter at the Sundance Film Festival, Dave Franco confirmed that yes, he knows he looks like Luigi Mangione. According to Franco, shortly after the shooter was captured and his identity was made public to the world, everybody and their mom reached out to the star to say that he not only looks like the guy, but that he should play him in a potential film, stating, "Anyone who has my phone number has reached out about it." And he continued to say no official offers. I don't think this needs to be a movie. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, he said no official offers, which means
he's heard it some offer.
No, I mean offers as in people are calling him, telling him he looks like him. But it also doesn't mean no, that I'm not going to do one. I mean,
no, he's definitely. I think he would.
Yeah. So it's not like as the other Francos call him, Davey. It's not like Davey's not going to do it. And I'm sorry if you ever hear this, Dave Franco. Sorry for calling you Davey. I know you.
He went. Oh, he like grabbed his chest and everything.
No, it's public, dude. I'm sorry. So I don't. No, it doesn't necessarily need to be a movie. It will be a cash grab.
It'll be so popular.
No story necessarily there unless you really go into the backstory of Luigi. But I don't know. It's martyrdom at that point. So politics and who's going to watch it? Well, the people who don't like rich people.
Well, I guess that's kind of the thing is that you're going to
guess who you're paying to watch the movie.
Yeah.
So
well, it's going to become a political like talking point. Yes. And I don't want to hear some politician talking about, we will not have this movie in our movie theaters in our state, planting a flag of some sort. And it's like, I don't want to hear about this.
That's First Amendment.
No, I know that won't actually happen, but you know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to deal with it. Just let it go away. This guy, he did his thing. Whether you think he
said what he said.
Yeah. Whether you think it should have happened or not, that's up to you. We will not be discussing it here. And henceforth, I don't think they should make the movie. I just think it's political turmoil that I don't want to deal with on the day-to-day when I'm trying to figure out what's going on in the reality that surrounds us. And finally, we're going to talk about, there have been 3 trailers released from various production houses this past week, all of them kind of in that horror area. And I was wanting to talk and just get Jake's opinion on which one he was most excited about. And if you guys have one that you really liked, if you've seen them or like the synopsis we give, let us know and we'll talk about it more. So first off, A24 dropped their first trailer for their upcoming horror/thriller Opus starring Ayo Edebiri and John Malkovich. The synopsis for that is, quote, a young writer travels to the remote compound of a legendary pop star who mysteriously disappeared 30 years ago. Surrounded by a cult of, what is that word? Sycophants? Sycophants?
Yeah.
Sycophants? Sycophants. And intoxicated journalists. She soon finds herself in the middle of his twisted plan. Then, Universal released their first look at upcoming horror film Drop by Christopher Landon of Happy Death Day and We Have a Ghost fame. The synopsis for that is, quote, Violet is a widowed mother who goes to an upstate restaurant to meet Henry, her charming and handsome date. However, her pleasant evening soon turns into a living nightmare when she receives phone messages from a mysterious hooded figure who threatens to kill her son and sister unless she kills Henry. Bom, bom, bom. And finally, Neon released their first look at Phil Wolfhard and Billy Brykes' co-directional debut with classic slasher feeling Hell of a Summer. The synopsis for that, and this is by IMDb, so it's really deep, and I'm going to apologize because I'm going to be reading a lot here, so just bear with me, folks. The counselors of a summer camp are terrorized by a mass killer.
Huh.
Which of these films piqued your interest? Jake, we watched these trailers beforehand, so audience members at home, you should probably find these and watch them if you want, but we're going to talk about which ones we were most excited for based off the trailer. So, Jake.
Well, I think it's obviously the counselors of a summer camp are terrorized by a masked killer is probably the most deep emotional wise. So I can't help but think of the John Malkovich A24 mysterious disappearing legendary pop star is just like The Menu.
Mm-hmm.
The trailer reminded me exactly of that remote island chef. His magnum opus, which it is called Opus, is this final meal where he just kills everybody. So I can see, and I trust A24 to not do the same thing twice. I mean, my trust can be betrayed. It's happened before, but I trust them to not do the same thing as The Menu. But that trailer was so Menu-esque that I was a little worried that you just get new actors and tell the same story again.
Yeah.
Now there's a cult. But I mean, the other chefs kind of followed the chef to the end as a cult, but they just made really good food. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't know about these guys.
Making so-so music, you know.
Yeah. So, and then Drop is another one of those like phone-based horrors where, he's got my kid, I got to do this thing, and I have to follow text messages. And I did not see the movie, wasn't it called like Countdown?
Yeah, I think so.
Kind of, you die when it hits the 0. So it's another one of those phone-based horror movies. I wouldn't, if I was into horror movies, that would probably be on the bottom of my list. But to be honest, now that I'm talking through it, it is probably the camp one because it's Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things. So he's in it, one of the main characters, as well as he direct it?
He co-directed.
He co-directed.
Yeah, with Billy Brike.
Right. So honestly, if I were going to go see any of them, it would be that one because of just it seems fun, even though it's a camp type horror film. It's just it seems like a bunch of kids, a bunch of cursing, stuff like that could have funny parts throughout, just like we had talked about where they thought the guy was like 40 and he's actually 24. Like there's just funny parts in it that I think Finn has it in him too. And is this his first thing directing?
Yeah, I think this is his directorial debut.
Crossing my fingers and I'm putting money on
He's 22.
It works.
Which is crazy.
Right. So I'm going to put money on Finn and saying this is going to be probably pretty good.
And, you know, I'm in the exact same boat. As Jake said, that's where that joke came in, where the dude was 24 and I got my feelings hurt. I think that this just, as a fan of the slasher franchise or just slasher franchises in general, this looked fun. It didn't look like it was trying to overdo it. You know, it's going to be gory. It's a Halloween type movie, a Jason type movie. But it seems like they added that extra element of wacky, like kind of like what would happen if you got some smart, like sarcastic teenagers in this kind of scenario. What would they do?
Which this is Stranger Things kind of all over again. Well, I mean, Finn's coming from that point of view.
They'd probably do some drugs and get drunk. They'd probably have sex. And if they were getting chased by some masked killer, they'd probably have some really funny moments. Like now, obviously, this isn't real. So in this scenario, it'd be have some really funny moments. So I am enjoying just everything about it. I think it's kind of like it's making fun of that slasher feel, but also at the end, what is the thing that we kind of come back to almost every other week when we're talking about films is sometimes it's just for fun. That's what this feels like. It just feels like I just hope the story matches that the feel they have, because if the story's is good, then people won't complain about it. But regardless, I don't really care if the story's good because it just looks like it'll be fun. But I can hear now, but the story was lacking. And it's just, I don't care. I hope for the sake of that, like that argument that people will make, that it is something really like interesting. But I think it'll just be a lot of fun. About Drop, now I don't really care. Like Opus looks like, good. I like thrillers, so I'll probably be in seats for that. But Drop gave me the feel of like Trap that released this last year. Obviously, instead of the dad, and so in Trap you had Josh Hartnett, who was his dad taking his kid to this pop singer's whatever, and it turned out that he was a serial killer, and the police knew he was there, and they try to trap him in this giant venue. Obviously, that's not going to be the exact same as what's going on in Drop, but it feels the same because in Trap, like it's a lot of him on his phone, it's a lot of him like blank, and they have overall the same feels. But Drop also looked kind of ridiculous to me, and I keep going back to this one moment in the trailer, which if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Jake says she had to have been pushed, but there's a moment they're at the top of this like skyscraper, and someone blows out a window. And instead, like, I don't know why this is the effect they chose, because I get like suspense and you want her to hang out the window, but it looked almost as if when the window broke, she got sucked out of it, like she was in like a plane, or like in like Star Wars when the vacuum sealed window are blown and it's just open space trying to suck everything out of the window. That's what it looked like happened to her, and she's hanging on by a curtain, and it's just like that's not how windows work.
Yeah.
Like, so it just looked a little silly. I think Drop is probably on the bottom of my list. I thought it looked, when I first watched it, I was like, interesting. But now I'm like, I think Opus looked a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. So, but it's still, I think the camp one, it's, what is Hell of a Summer? Sorry,
Hell of a
Summer. And it seems to be, is it like a mask, like a devil mask?
That's what it looks like. He's got red gloves and some sort of red mask with horns, so I'm assuming.
And I've seen him use an axe. I've seen him use a blade.
So the kills looked good. Like, they look gnarly. Like, the effects were good.
Axe to the head, dude. Like, it was a shadow. But that looked crazy. But you can fake a shadow, and that could have been the killer who he tried to fake his death or whatever.
Yeah.
There can be so many different ways that this film goes, and I'm just excited to see what Finn does. If he is 22, then he's got a long road ahead of him. He's going to learn a lot.
How old is Finn Wolfhard? I'm pretty sure I read he was 22.
He's young, because he was young doing Stranger Things. And we kind of grew up with him.
He is 22.
He's 22.
He just turned 22.
Oh, so he's actually younger.
Yeah, he turned
me.
He turned 22 in late December.
Okay, so yeah, he's a little younger than me. So that, like I said, he's got a long way to go. Not so much like he's Ryan.
You know what?
He's
Screw,
much
screw
younger.
you, dude, being so young and being so successful.
Yeah,
No, I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
So as when I say that he's got a lot ahead of him, comparative to like Ryan, he's old. He's practically geriatric. He doesn't have-
my knees sound like door hinges when I stand.
Yeah, all he really does is talk about politics to me and CNN. And,
Say things that say things that are kind of, don't let him out in public.
yeah. Sometimes he goes and just rambles nonsensically.
Yeah.
It's
Then the nurse comes over and gives
dementia.
me a pill, and then I feel better.
Yeah, and then he's fine. He goes back to watching Jeopardy and Wheel of
I go
Fortune.
catatonic for a minute.
So, but yeah, that's what films interest me. And anything else to add, Ryan?
I think that's about it. I mean, I don't have anything else to add. Do you have anything you want to say to the people before they go?
I've got nothing besides if your phone starts telling you to do things or else, delete the app.
Yeah, don't answer the phone.
Cyberbullying isn't real. No, sorry.
It's all in your head.
Yeah, just turn the phone off.
No.
No, but yeah.
All right.
No.
All right. I think we're going to leave you alone with that amazing and inspiring message. Thank you guys so much for sticking it out with us. This episode was a lot longer than normal, but we appreciate you guys being here. And again, let us know what you think. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.